Good morning. Welcome to Shawnee Mission Unitarian Universalist Church. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, you are welcome here. We are so happy that you've chosen this space, this Sabbath, this sanctuary and time. And we know that you have so many options on Sunday morning, and that you choose to be here is something we celebrate. We extend an especially warm welcome to our visitors out there. Please say hi to everyone in the chat. It's good to be together. And now Reverend Rose has a few more announcements. Thank you.
Good morning. Well, here we are again, virtual church. Last Sunday, I stood here and explained why we weren't closing church, but today the cases have doubled in such a short period of time that we did indeed decide that we would shut the church down for 2 weeks and then reassess. It is of utmost importance that we do what is necessary to keep everyone safe. Secondly, in honor of Martin Luther King Jr. Day weekend, I am pleased to announce that the anti-racist group here at SMUUCh is going to be leading a series of 5 workshops over the next 5 months about the 8th principle proposal, which has been adopted by hundreds of congregations. The principle says that we, the member congregations of the Unitarian Universalist Association, covenant to affirm and promote journeying towards spiritual wholeness by working to build a diverse, multicultural, beloved community by our actions that accountably dismantle racism and other oppressions in ourselves and institutions. These workshop spaces will be ritual and connection heavy in hopes of bringing us forward on our journey of decentering whiteness and doing our parts to unwork some of the very deep history that we carry with us around racism. We hope that you will come and join us. Today, we will be listening rather than singing our hymns. We invite you all to take our musical moments today as an opportunity to connect back into the present moment and enjoy the soundtrack of this worship service. Lastly, and we invite you to now start posting your joys and sorrows so that they can be read aloud during the candle lighting. Our opening words today come from Jan Richardson. It is called Blessing When the World is Ending. Look, the world is always ending somewhere. Somewhere the sun has come crashing down. Somewhere it has gone completely dark. Somewhere it has ended with the gun, the knife, the fist. Somewhere it has ended with the slammed door, the shattered hope. Somewhere it has ended with the utter quiet that follows the news from the phone, the television, the hospital room. Somewhere it has ended with a tenderness that will break your heart. But listen, this blessing means to be anything but morose. It has not come to cause despair. It is simply here because there is nothing a blessing is better suited for than an ending. Nothing that cries out more for a blessing than when a world is falling apart. This blessing will not fix you, will not mend you, will not give you false comfort. It will not talk to you about opening one door when another one closes. It will simply sit itself beside you among the shards and gently turn your face toward the direction from which the light will come, gathering itself about you as the world begins again. Come, let us worship and enjoy our opening musical piece. This is my song.
As Reverend Rose comes forward to light our chalice, we invite you to join in reading our covenant, which is behind me on the wall. Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity and fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with one another. Each month, we as a community take time to reflect on a theme. The children do this in their classes, and we do it here in worship and in our small groups. This month, the theme is living with intention. Thank you. So first, a few words from the past. Tonight, it is cold, and I would be the oak that lies broken in the snow. Then be the man I am while rotting in this white, too scared to rise and go. Into the cabin yonder where shadows pace, warmed by the fire that their company creates. Instead, I hunch and stare at a tree that once stood tall, allowing flakes of pity to blanket me from all. I thought I knew myself and could discern reality from reason, but I do not stand for my beliefs, and that to me is treason. I will not be judged by those silhouettes I envy. That would take courage, much as standing would relieve me. I could walk into that house and shout aloud my name, face the fears that know me, and defeat them with my fame. I could shake away that blanket that I do choose to wear and grow with those that know me and know the fruit I bear. Instead, I sit and shiver, burdened by my acts, sharper than the lies I seem to believe are facts. No, I can't rise and face the ghosts that I may make to breathe, so I blind myself to them and will await them underneath. I'm the oak that lies broken in the snow, and I am the axe that has made it so. Now, the present, January, beginnings, better yet, new beginnings, one of my favorite tautologies. Does everyone know what a tautology is? It's the opposite of oxymoron. It's when you say the same thing twice unnecessarily just by pairing different words together, like the tail end, or hoagie sandwich, or I saw it with my own two eyes, or me just now saying pairing different words together. Anyway, back to the topic, the time of new beginnings. New Year's resolutions, the same ones over and over, year after year. You're all familiar with them. This is the year I quit smoking. This year I'm going to learn the guitar. This is the year I'm going to lose 30 pounds. Well, actually, that was mine last year. Now it's 40 pounds, so I seem to add 10 more pounds annually to that one particular goal. Well then, how appropriate, deliberately so, that this month's theme of living with intention isn't about setting goals of transformation and then intending to realize them. That's not what intention, or living with intention, is really all about. Our introductory reading in our small group literature this month has some wonderful insight about this, about self-improvement, those goals we search for and struggle to realize not being the same as self-alignment. Think about it. Sometimes my car is not running right. It's wobbly. It can't seem to stay in line. It's off focus. I could make the car better by getting a new stereo this year, or maybe a new shiny paint job, or one of those ubiquitous pine tree air freshener things that hang on my rearview mirror. But that doesn't actually make my car run better. Only an alignment to the parts it already has will make it run better. So the focus this month is to notice the difference between becoming better versions of ourselves through self-improvement ideas that are really about recreating ourselves, versus the need to focus more on just connecting with who we already know ourselves to be. Instead of declaring this year, I'll finally, after so many attempts, become a better, newer version of me, I should most importantly just be more concerned with finally and simply just being me. Becoming more of who I already am through actualization, instead of attempting to metamorphosize through hopeful acts of some future accomplishment. And thus, the future. To quote Katie Covey of Soul Matters, intention is different from setting goals or resolutions because goals and resolutions push us out into future possibilities. But to set intentions pulls us into who we truly already are. And that's a beautiful state of being. So I intend this year to identify more not with unrecognized identities such as a thinner me, a more physically fit me, a richer me, but to become more centered with the labels I already possess. A loving son, a caring father, a thoughtful boyfriend, a dutiful member of SMUUCh. Yes, this year, I'm just going to simply be the best oak tree I know myself to be and warm myself in the company of friends and loved ones.
Our musical interlude today is Vignette Number 2 by Zenobia Powell Perry. This is the time in our order of service where we draw to heart and mind those in our midst who are suffering and those who feel the sweet relief of their burdens easing. Today, in honor of the civil rights movements and peacekeeping protest movements, we think of those who not only wish fervently for a better world, but have worked for it. We draw into our hearts those who have protested, sung, sat in, inhabited trees, made good trouble, staying true to their cause, linking arms and walking through the city, lifting their voices and chanting for a better world. We extend our gratitude to those idealistic minds amongst us, those for whom halfway is not enough, those who know what is sacred and are so moved by humanity, the earth, fairness, justice, and love that they act. We take into our minds the world, the vastness of human culture, of biodiversity. We open our minds to the idea that there is much more than we could ever know. Open ourselves to the grandeur, the beauty, the understandings that we have yet to encounter. We give our love to those untangling themselves from relationships that no longer serve them. We grieve for the loss of energy and time that chronic illness takes on the body and mind, and our hearts go out to all who are struggling to make ends meet, especially this time of year, especially those who are not able to find shelter on cold nights. We extend our gratitude to people who make caring for children their primary spiritual practice, and we join in wonder with all who are bravely facing their final days. And as always, we rejoice over the exquisite beauty in this world, as small or as life-changing as each piece of beauty might be. And now I will invite my worship associate up to read our joys and sorrows while I light the candles.
Okay. Bonnie Till has a joy. On Friday, January 14th, her son-in-law, Sean Brady, was officially sworn in as an American citizen. Sean is from County Tipperary, Ireland. I hope I said that right. He now holds U.S. and Irish citizenship. Jim Christ has a candle of gratitude for the technology that can bring us together and for those who use it so well on our behalf and those helping operate. Danny Hewitt has a candle for Chet Johnson, who is rehabbing in Denver from a broken hip and elbow. Please do reach out to him. Kent Johnson has a concern. Kent's brother Mark is in his 9th day on a ventilator due to COVID complications at a hospital in Wichita.
Today in our service, we are talking about Zen Coens. And so I'd like to invite you to join in a little bit of Zen meditation today. This is different than what we have been practicing here at SMUUCh. We've been doing a type of meditation called Vipassana that relies on the breath. It attaches your thinking to the sensation of your breathing. But Zen is a little bit different. So we're just going to try it right now for a few minutes while you are in hopefully what is a comfortable and safe space. Okay, with Zen, it is first most important that you find length in your spine. If you are able, I invite you to scoot to the edge of your seat, and then from there you're going to imagine that there is a string pulling up on the crown of your head, and you're going to grow as tall as you possibly can. And now stay like that. If you're not able to do these particular movements, you can still feel that pull of the string on the crown of your head, or you can find a painless, lengthening movement somewhere in your body. Maybe it's in your hands, just some sort of lengthening, opening feeling. Now, when I sat Zen, my teacher used to come around, and if he saw you slouching, he would whack you in the crook of your neck with a yardstick. But our nervous systems don't need that today. So let us just find a moment of opening, lifting, and expanding. So now that you're very tall, I'm going to invite you to find a spot, roughly like 15 degrees, right in front of you on the floor. Let your eyelids close 2/3 of the way. Let your gaze soften and just be there. Blessed be. Now, please remain seated in your homes and enjoy our meditative hymn, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Our reading today comes from Wendell Berry, author and naturalist. It may be that when we no longer know what to do, we have come to our real work. And that when we no longer know which way to go, we have come to our real journey. The mind that is not baffled is not employed. The impeded stream is the one that sings.
Look, the world is always ending somewhere. Somewhere the sun has come crashing down. Somewhere it has gone completely dark. Somewhere it has ended with the gun, the knife, the fist. Somewhere it has ended with the slammed door, the shattered hope. Somewhere it has ended with the utter quiet that follows the news from the phone, the television, the hospital room. Somewhere it has ended with a tenderness that can break your heart. These words come from our opening words today by Jan Richardson, and I chose them because I want to talk today about the end of the world. The end times, which are represented everywhere we look right now. The movies are all apocalypse. The air reeks of anxiety. And there is a common phenomenon called doom scrolling, which is the act of scrolling through your social media or news media and simply absorbing bad news. I want to posit that this sense of doom and end of the world is a particularly Western religious response to change. That ascribing the end times to something that is shifting is indeed an impulse that can be fit squarely on the shoulders of Christianity and the misinterpretation of its scriptures to cause fear. And I wonder, are you afraid these days? How is your mind? How is your thinking? I invite you to take a second and notice if there is a part of your mind that is falling prey to binary thinking, black and white, duality. Because either or thinking is fundamental to the basic popular Christian doctrine as it is disseminated for the public. For example, are you going to heaven or are you going to hell, which you should be very afraid of? Are you good or are you bad? Will the world end or will it not? I ask this because specifically at this time when there is so much anxiety in the air, I'm wondering if you are seeking satisfying, conclusive understanding right now about the changes that are happening around you. And I wonder if your desire for logic and understanding might actually be boxing you and we in. I wonder if you might be struggling spiritually with the level of ambiguity, unknowingness, and loss of control that our current world is holding. because I don't feel that we have been given many spiritual tools, really, to deal with this level of change. Indeed, when I went to seminary, I went because I felt, as a person from the West, I needed to understand the Christian lexicon if I was going to become a minister. And it was in seminary that I first encountered biblical scholarship, and what I found was a whole lot of logic. Here I was studying the Bible from the Western world's premier and most radical theologians, studying dissertations on the theological basis of Christianity, reading books about reason, lengthy, wordy theologians who were drawing diagrams in their papers with numbers and axes, lengthy explanations of what is called eschatology, or the study of the end times, the afterlife, the end of the world. Words and pinning down the truth of what was being said about the end of everything was their goal. Figuring it out, predicting it, knowing it. People were even trying to figure out the book of Revelations, which is the final book of the New Testament, and honestly makes no sense. It's like a nonsense fever dream, and yet theologians are going to find the answer. Even the resurrection of Jesus, where he dies and then ascends and comes back to life, they were mapping out how it worked logically, and at that point I was like, I'm lost. I admit it. I was like, well, I came here to learn about this religion, but so far it is not working for me. Until a professor of mine said something that cleared it all up. He was like, oh, the resurrection story? Yeah, that doesn't make sense. He was like, that's what it's about. It's about that it's a mystery and that you don't use your logic to understand it. You just let go of trying to understand. Okay, that's cool with me. I love that for y'all. That's very powerful. And now I love preaching about the resurrection because it's got some space in it. It's got some breathing room. It's swirled all the opposites together in an ambiguous paradox that is nothing and everything all at once, which I really relate to, that it's possible for someone to be dead, but also alive in a different way, that things are bad, but also good, that the end is a beginning. Things are true, but also not. Hallelujah. Amen. Blessed be. I'd become a Christian if we could linger in that unknowing, which is why I'm a UU, because I don't have to believe any which way. I can dabble and shop and move freely spiritually. But I am concerned that it took me getting to the top of the tallest ivory tower accessible to like 500 people in the world to hear this wisdom. Because I feel like here in the West, we are all really struggling with binary thinking. I want you to take a moment and notice again, where are you thinking in these binaries? Will COVID end or not? Will this person in my life get the help they need or not? Will the next election serve the people and the earth or not? Am I male? Am I female? Am I good? Am I bad? These attachments are pitfalls of the human mind. Binary thinking is actually a human condition. And thus, now that I have exposed you to the possibilities of paradox in Christianity, I want to bring you a second angle from my non-binary religious toolbox. And this is a much more accessible and usable tool that you can even just Google it, and there it is. These are the Zen Coens, and I think they could equip us to better open our minds to a spiritual peace. Zen Coens are short statements, stories, or questions that are often a paradox that are supposed to baffle us. They're supposed to be confusing, unanswerable riddles that Zen monks and nuns use to remain confused so that they are better able to withstand the paradoxes and ambiguities of life. Which I think is what the story of the resurrection is too. A paradox, a koan. The koans essentially ask, what if we didn't need an explanation for everything? The practitioner is supposed to realize that the koan is actually not meant to be understood with logic, but is instead meant to stretch the mind and be understood by the spirit and the intuition. They are a reminder that actually, when we no longer know what to do, is when our real work begins. As Zen practitioner Hori says, koan after koan explore the theme of non-duality. For example, the well-known koan, two hands clapping together, there is a sound, but what is the sound of one hand clapping is clearly about two and one, which is the basis of logic. Another Zen koan says, what is your original face before your mother and father were born? These koans aren't supposed to be satisfying. It's not satisfying to imagine the sound of one hand clapping. There is no answer. There is no ground of being. There is no comforting hand of God. For as Dr. King suggested, we are here actually to become maladjusted. We are here to be able to withstand the paradoxes of the world, to develop a letting go process specifically of that binary thinking, and instead use Zen koans as they have been described as a surgical tool that cuts the mind, waiting for you to open enough to allow the space necessary to enter your depths, the inner regions beyond knowing, where it does not make sense, to find where and how the impeded stream sings, to let go of the fruits of knowledge that you hope to understand. For it is when you come to the real journey of not knowing that the true journey begins. Perhaps climate change, massive shifts and changes in our worlds, the great pains and questions upon which we linger, these are the great koans of our time. So let us experience some koans. Again, I'd like you to find the space in your body, sitting tall, to receive some deep riddles. However that may be, scooting to the edge of your chair, feet flat on the floor, the string pulling you upwards, finding length in your own ways, eyes cast down and soft, just being. I'll give you 3 examples. This is from 13th century Buddhist Dogen Zenji. When asked why he practiced Zen, the student said, "Because I intend to become a Buddha." His teacher picked up a brick and started polishing it. The student said, "What are you doing?" The teacher replied, "I'm trying to make a mirror." "How can you make a mirror by polishing the brick?" asked the student. The teacher replied, "How can you become Buddha by doing zazen?" If you understand sitting Zen, you will know that Zen is not about sitting or lying down. If you want to learn sitting Buddha, know that sitting Buddha is without any fixed form. If you practice sitting as Buddha, you must kill the Buddha. If you are attached to the sitting form, you are not yet mastering the essential principle. The student heard this and felt as if he had tasted sweet nectar. Dmitry Ehrlich explains this to us, saying, "How is it possible to practice meditation without attachment to the fruits of our efforts? If we are always thinking of meditation as a means to improve ourselves, like Curtis said, to gain something from the effort and time we invest, the entire undertaking is subverted by our ordinary mind's addiction to worldly achievement. For the truth is, when we first come to spiritual practice, our motivation is often fear. We are afraid of suffering. We want escape, freedom. Only after we have gained some experience can we begin to explore the subtle traps of binary thinking. So this koan about killing the Buddha, if you meet the Buddha, kill the Buddha, is a fantastic reminder to trust the purity of our primordial mind, to acknowledge our constant mental habit of grasping, to see how grasping obscures our innate wisdom. Now we come to our second koan. This one comes from the Book of Serenity. Dizang asked Shushan, "Where do you come from?" Shushan said, "From the south." Dizang said, "How is Buddhism in the south these days?" Shushan said, "There is extensive discussion." Dizang said, "How can that discussion compare to me here planting the fields and making rice to eat?" Shushan said, "What can you do about the world?" Dizang said, "What do you call the world?" Reverend Zesho Susan O'Connell explains this for us, saying, "Time and again, during question and answer sessions after a Zen lecture, someone will ask, what is the use of just sitting in silent meditation when there's so much suffering in the world?" This question is usually meant as a challenge to what seems a kind of passiveness. And it is true that the world is full of suffering beings, humans, animals, plants, even the planet itself is deeply suffering. Shouldn't we be having extensive discussions, protesting, implementing solutions? But she says this koan does for me what I think is the intention of all koans. It stops my mind mid-stride. It brings my awareness to the importance of asking questions before acting. Questions like, what is the nature of suffering and what is its ultimate cause? Or how can I help a world that I see as separate from myself? Wouldn't it be more beneficial for me to deeply understand how the world is not something out there that needs saving? If I consider the way we are all constantly, in every moment, making the world, then each simple ordinary action I am able to take right here is doing something about the world. And when it is time for another kind of action, less simple or potentially more widely impactful, it is my intention that these actions will be grounded in not knowing what the world is or what helping is. And so here is our final koan. When does a sermon end?
The work of the church depends on us, our generosity of time, wisdom, and financial resources. Look below, please, in the description for online or phone giving. We invite you to give generously to support the ongoing work of the church. The offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation of our shared values. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry with us in our hearts until we are all together again. Now please enjoy our closing hymn.
This week, I invite you to become more comfortable with your unknowing. Go in peace.